what I want to do is I'm going to go to an image search. And basically for this project, we're going to trace over, we're basically going to convert our image into kind of like a wireframe or kind of like a stained glass window, if you can imagine something like that, where we're just going to draw around all the shapes. And then in those shapes, we're going to put our words that we're going to work. So having said that, there's a bunch of different styles that you can look for. And there are versions of this character, for instance, like an 8-bit version like this from the very first Nintendo, like this guy. That's going to be too bland and boring for this project. Okay, there's not enough happening there. Likewise, if I wanted to look at Mega Man from like, let's see, like from Smash or something. If I looked at something that was like more photorealistic or something like this Mega Man is a little bit too complex for this project. All right, so we're looking for something in the middle. So what we want when we're going for this project is we want something that looks like this. Based on the fact that you just did all that comic book coloring, you should understand what I'm talking about. We're looking for whatever we are looking for. We want something that's going to look similar to this, okay? Think Saturday morning cartoons back in like the early 2000s, like probably like when you guys were little kids, okay? One flat tone and then maybe like one shadow tone and possibly a highlight, okay? So it's not just a flat, boring image. It's got a little bit of volume to it, but it's not so much volume that it's like photorealistic like this, where you won't know where to break it up, right? We want to have clear breaks between the imagery, right? So for instance, like this one here looks nice. This is a little more complex, but it's not too bad. I can see very specific shapes around where like the light, the color changes, etc. Okay, that's what I want. Now, anime works really good for this project. If you're into anime, if you're into Saturday morning cartoons or classic video game characters or anything along these lines, it works well. Now, you can do this with a photorealistic image. You could do this project with a photograph. The only issue is it's just really hard to, kind of like when we did the vectoring, you have to like figure out where the color breaks happen all over your figure. In a case like this, you don't have to figure out anything. You just trace, right? All right, so anyway, I find an image that I like. All right, I'm going to use this Mega Man. It's that proper tone, right? It looks like it's got a nice flat tone. There's a bit of a shadow. It's got big, bold, crisp colors. Very easy to tell where I'm going to make my lines. Okay, I go right click, save image as, and then I'm going to go ahead and save it to my desktop. Okay, you see that? Now watch. I'm going to come over. This part's quite easy. All right, so just pay attention for a moment. I'm going to come over to my Illustrator here. I'm going to go to Create New. Just a second. Organize my. There we go. All right, I go to Create New. And now when I'm in here, I'm just going to call this, I'll call this one typography. You call it whatever you want. I could call it Mega Man, whatever. Typography, hour 6. Okay. So I make sure I'm in letter size and go to create. All right. So this is how we open up any brand new project. All right. There it comes. Okay. So all we want to do, and you guys have done this many times now that you're in the end of graphic design too, believe it or not. We're going to go ahead and place that image that we just downloaded. So I'm going to go to File, Place, just like this. Go to File, Place, take my little Mega Man image, put it like that. All right, you guys have all done this 1,000 times. Now all I'm going to do is this, immediately lock the layer. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to adjust the opacity or anything like that. And I can begin. I'm going to make another layer above it. Right there. And the first step here, kind of like what I showed you that tutorial for the typography, when we drew in the weird lines, like the little oval lines where we put Raytown and Blue Jays in, you know, we're going to now do that, only we're going to use this as a reference. So we're going to convert this image to that kind of wireframe look. And here's how you do it. On the layer above the image, you go to your paintbrush, make sure it's at the basic 5-point round or whatever. And then I want you to select a color that's completely off the wall, like neon orange or neon pink or like bright green or something that has nothing to do with the image itself. And then the first step of this project is just going to be tracing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to trace over any areas. Okay, there you go. See, I've got that green. I'm going to trace over any areas that are outlines or color changes. So whenever there's like a rendering, like a shadow tone or an outline, or excuse me, like an outline like this, I'm going to trace over it the whole time, keeping in mind general ideas that we're basically making this a wireframe outline of the structure. I think that a really good analogy is to think about it as like we're making a stained glass window. All right, I'm putting in the wrought iron right now. In the middle areas here, this is where we're going to be putting our words that we learned how to do last class. All right, so I'm doing all of the outlines, and all of the color changes. Hit Control Z a couple times because this can somehow, there we go, a little bit better. Now this, as you might remember from our previous project or activity, this line that I'm creating right now is going to be a more of like a margin. It's going to be the space between words. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but the more perfect you can make it, the better. All right, so there we go. There's a line there. I'm going to get all of the outlines and all of the tonal changes. Just again, remember, think of it like a stained glass window. So I'm just creating this, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to connect everything perfectly either, because it's all just going to be negative space at the end. So if you got little gaps like this, it doesn't matter at all. That'll all be, whoopsie, that's fine too even. If you have little gaps like that, it's okay. All right, so I'm just going around, and notice what I'm doing. I'm just outlining. This is the first part of the project. You don't have to get all the details, but just try your best, okay? This is our first part. I want to do things like this little oval here. Wow, that was really terrible. Control Z. Control Z is your friend. This is a little tricky to do with a mouse, as you guys might know. I should be doing this with my trackpad. I think it's a little easier with a trackpad, but it's up to you. So I Control Z a lot because I'm messing up a lot, and that's okay. There we go, slow it down. Voila. All right, so I'm going over every outline. I'm going over every change in color. So what you're going to get is you're going to get this wireframe version of your character. Now, for this project to not take 10,000 years, you want to limit it to, you don't want to be any, you probably want to be around like maybe like 50 shapes, okay? You could be a little bit more, a little bit less. You don't want to do that original Mega Man thing that I was showing you, because that old Nintendo sprite would probably be like 6 shapes. That project wouldn't be any good. You wouldn't want to do the photorealistic one unless you really want to pour your time and energy into it, because you could do, I've had students who do photos that have been like 500 different words. They always look beautiful and interesting. It just takes a while. All right, so let's say that we've got our character completely outlined. When you remove this bottom layer, you see a nice, cool, like wireframe outline of your character. That should be where you are. At this point, what we're going to do, so we have our background image like that, and we have our wireframe like that, okay? So what we want to do here is we want to make a new layer. We're going to make a brand new layer on top. We just go click add layer. See that layer 3 right there? And at this point, you can lock your wireframe layer too. Your outline layer, go ahead and lock it. So look at my screen here. I've got everything locked except for this brand new layer that I have, okay? You were supposed to have come up with some sort of like word bank, perhaps, that you wanted to use for your area. And now here we go. All right. What we are going to do is very similar to when we fit the Raytown Blue Jays, the real weird word, into that weird space. We're now going to fit words that relate to our character into all of these strange spaces that we've created, okay? Here's how you do it. You can go ahead and just, you don't need to be able to actually see your background image at all at this point. You can just start going. Okay, so here we go. What you're gonna do is you go to your type tool, and you can reference that video on YouTube that I posted about how to do this, or the previous classes where I showed how to do this. Or you can just watch real quick again. I'm gonna do it a couple of times. We click on our type tool. You just click anywhere. Click a single time in any space like this. Then remember, we're going to change our font to impact font. We're going to use impact font, the entire thing. Okay, so from here, in all caps, I'm gonna write mega, like Mega Man, all right? Mega, geez. Mega, like that. Now, as soon as I type it, I immediately go back to my black arrow. So now I've got an item. You see this item that I can move and manipulate and stuff like that, right? Okay, now here we go. First step I don't want you to do. All right, you're gonna start to think about this and you're gonna be like, okay, I guess I should now position this in that space like that, right? I'm gonna put it right here. Like that. That's the right idea, but there's a major step you have to do before you tilt your word, okay? So let's go back. I've typed my word out. You'll notice how the bounding box around it has got like a lot of open space around it still. This is still like a typable word. What we want to do is we want to put it in that envelope that we talked about. All right, we want to put this in the envelope. So the way you do that, before you tilt it or anything like that, after you type the word out, you just go to your black arrow, and you'll get your bounding box, and then you go up to Object, Envelope Distort, Make with Mesh. Now, once I do that, it's going to open up this envelope mesh option, and I'm going to drop this drop it down one row and one column. You only have to do this one time. You want it to be one row and one column. When I do that, you will see that the word or the bounding box around the word gets sucked in. You see that? It's like zip locked in. Now I can spin it. Okay, you don't want to spin it before you put it in the envelope, or else you'll get a bunch of negative space that's hard to contend with. All right, so then I come in here and I sort of position it in the area that I want to put it, just like we did with the Raytown thing. I go to my white arrow, and I'm going to get corners. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what I want. I'm going to get the corners on the line, right? So I click and I drag, and I want to go straight up. I don't want to bring it like this, or it's going to move it. I want to act totally perpendicularly, so like up and down with the word. All right, so here we go like this. I'll double click down here. I'm going to move that to there. I'm going to take this one here, and I'm actually going to move that to there. Like that. Okay, and just toy around with it so that you can make sure that the word stays how you want it to stay. Okay, so now I click on any given corner, and I only adjust these handles, not the ones that are not the up and down handles, just the ones that go across the top and the bottom of the word. I'll just pull on that slightly, move it up that way. I'll come over here. I'll pull on this slightly. I'm going to move this one down. Again, I want to go straight up and down in relation to the word, not in relation to my page, in relation to the word. So I'm going straight up and down like see how this E is going straight up and down? I'm moving my mouse along it. So just straight up and down like that. Then I'll do the same on the bottom here. What you're looking for is you're looking for a slight overlap of your word and the line. That's all you want. And you don't want it to go over too much. So like, I don't want to go too far there. Now, if you have any areas that you need to correct or make a little bump or fix it up a little bit, the way you do that, if you might recall, is to go and add anchor points. I go to add my anchor point. I'm going to put one right here because I see a little bit of a white gap. I'll put one over in this corner like that. And really, that's all you got to do. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to do this a bunch of times. All right, so I move that one. There you go. Problem solved on that end. I'll move this one up, adjust the handle. Okay, voila. Now you might be looking at this M here and be like, well, that's not exactly on, Mr. Route. It's pretty close. Okay. All right, there you go. Looking good. So I've got my first word set. I move off of it, and now I've got the word mega there. Now you might have guessed it. Later on, we're going to change the color of it so that it looks exactly like the color it's sitting on top of. But for now, I'm good. Now I'm going to move on to my next word. Okay, I'm going to go over that process again. Mega. All right, let's do man now. All right, so I'm going to go type. Everybody paying close attention again. Click on the type tool. I'm going to write out man in all caps. Then I'm going to immediately go to my black arrow. I can sort of size it up if I want, but what do I not want to do right now? Anybody want to chime in and tell me what I don't want to do right now? You are correct if you said spin it. I don't want to spin it yet. What I want to do instead is I want to immediately go up to Object, Envelope Distort, Make with Mesh. Hit OK. And now once the bounding box has been sucked tight against my word, then I can spin it. I can get it relatively positioned like so. And now I can begin again. Right, this is a repetitive nature. After you do this a few times, you're going to get much better at it. It's not really that hard. You click on the white arrow. You move, double click on your corners, get them on the spot where you want them to be, like that. Okay, looking good. Boom. You don't have to worry about overlapping the other word or whatever, because you might recall at the end, we're going to bring the lines to the front, and it's going to act as like a little blocker for us. And then from here, actually, I think I'm going to bring this down a little further. There we go. All right, from here, I'm just going to click on those corners, grab the handles, and then get this positioned how I want it. So that side's positioned right. That side's positioned almost right. My M's going a little too far there. That's okay. Down here, I just want to make sure that I've got my word just ever so slightly, oopsie, touching the line that it's overlapping with, like that. Boom. And you might say, well, what about this gap right here? Don't even worry about that. We can just shove another word right here. And then when we make it, when we change the color later, this word man, and then whatever word I've got over here and whatever word I want to put in here, I can just make them the same color and it'll look cool. All right, so that word looks good. I need to go at it, fix this anchor point situation right up here. I'll go to my white arrow, double click, bring it down a little bit, just clean it up. And there we go. I've got two words on there. Now, this doesn't look perfect, but remember, the last step of this is moving this whole layer to the top. So it'll give you that nice border. As long as you've got it sitting on top of your line, you're good to go. So there you go. There, I just did two. It does Mega Man. Right? I can just keep going. I'm thinking about words. I'm thinking Capcom, Nintendo, whatever, Blaster, anything. And I just type a word, put it in the envelope, position it, and stretch it. Type a word, put it in the envelope, position it, and stretch it, et cetera, et cetera. What you're going to do is once you have your, and you can do this at any point, honestly, but once you've got your words in or whatever and you want to change the color, what you're going to do is this. Make your background layer visible again, so it looks like this, so you can actually see what's behind it. Okay, now here's this weird step. So we want to get that word man to be the same color as that background that's sitting on top of, okay? So the way you do that is like this. If you select the word like this, when you make the selection like so, you'll see that up here at the top of my screen, right above my selection tool, when I do that, it says the word envelope. Can you see the word envelope where I'm circling my mouse right now? Yeah. Okay, so next to that, there's two little icons. This little icon says edit envelope. That means that we could change the size and the shape of the word. That's what we were doing. The little one next to it that looks like a little star says edit contents. So what you want to do is this. You select the word, you go up here and you click this little star thing. And what it does is sort of unlocks it. See how it shows me, like, it shows what's inside, but it doesn't affect the word much at all. So once you've done that, once you've clicked that little star thing, you go to your little color sampler tool, like what we did with the vector dropper thing, and you just select any pixel in that area, like right here, and it will change the word to that color. Once I've done that, I then go back up here to where the star was and then click edit envelope again to relock it. But when I get there is I just change the word to the color behind it. I'll do that again. So watch real close. With my black arrow selected, I click on the word mega, right? See that? If I try to go directly to my eyedropper, it's not going to work. Nothing's going to happen. What I want to do first is I click on the word. I go up to that little star up there where it says edit envelope thing. Click on the star. It will like unlock the thing. Now I can go to my sampler tool, click a pixel that's behind the word somewhere, and it changes it to that color. Once I do that, I go up and I lock, and then I close it up. Click away from the star again. And what you end up doing is you're going to end up getting the colors of that particular space. Okay? Pretty easy. So check this out. All right, that's all you do. You just change all the different colors. And you're going to have little gap areas that you don't have words in, right? Like this little highlighted area right here, or this little area, all these little small pieces that I can't quite get words into. Well, What you do in that case is this. I would do this last, actually. So the first thing that I would do is I would change all your colors of your work. Then I would take that layer 2. Then you're going to want to take that layer 2 thing right there, where it says layer 2. It's my outline part. I want you to pull that to the front. Grab it and move it to the front of your work. You see how all my lines came forward? Okay, then now that I've done that, I've got my lines on the top. I've got my colored words in the middle, and then I've got my background piece in the back, right? By the time you change all the colors, you no longer need the background piece, but watch this. So on the same layer, I've got my words, right? On this layer here, I want to color in these little chunks that I missed with the appropriate color. So what I would do is like this. Check it out. Same thing. I'm going to click on my eyedropper tool, select the color. Let's just pick this one here. All right, I've got that color. Notice how it changed. The new tool that we haven't really used much, it's called the blob brush. Do this, the blob brush tool right under my paintbrush tool. Blob brush tool. When I select that, this is like a little paintbrush. You can actually use your brackets to increase or decrease the size of your cursor, and then you can just color it in. But watch, because I'm painting behind this, it tucks back behind it. So I can just come in here and color, as long as I'm using my blob brush, I can fill in that space with that particular color. You just color it in and it'll turn it into one giant shape because you use the blob brush. You see that, how it's one easy shape? If you use the regular brush, it'll get really complex. Don't use the regular brush, use the blob brush. All right, so I'll show you that again. I'm working behind my outline layer. So I put all my outlines to the front at this point, okay? So now I just come back into that layer that I have my words on, select the blob, or select the sampler tool, touch a color like this. Oh, whoops. Need to make sure I'm not selected on that. All right, touch a color like so. Go to my blob brush, and then I can come in here and I can color in like that. It goes behind the word or behind the line because, well, that line layer. Just do that. I can actually do this like a coloring book, right? So some areas I have the words in that I changed the color of. Some areas I have that. What you end up with is you're going to get a cool representation of that word. Now, the very final thing, once I've done that, I've got all my words colored. I've got all my little irregular spaces, blob brush colored in. After I've got all that there done, there's one thing that's kind of standing out right now on my screen, and that is what? The green outline, right? What do you suppose I should do to all of those green lines? Anybody remember?
Delete them.
It's a great idea, delete them. And it's the same concept, but we don't want to delete them because they serve a purpose. They're setting a block for us, right? I don't want to see all the weird stuff that's behind these lines. If I were to just delete them, I get something that looks sloppy like that. So alternatively, what I want to do instead of deleting them is this. You can lock your other layers, right? Select over them. Instead of deleting them, we're going to fake delete them. We're going to trick our viewer. We're going to just change them to the same color as the background. So in this case, the background is white. When I change the stroke of those to white, you get that. Now it does look like they are deleted. They are just still there as a white thing, right? So they're there. So that concept is you take that colorful line, come on, you take that line, once you're done putting all your words in, you move the line to the front of your screen, right to the top. Then you can do all the color changing stuff. And then the final step is to change the color of the lines to white. So it'll give you that little margin, that little border like that. And so now imagine if I had the entire thing filled in with words and shapes, I've now got this cool version of Mega Man with a cool white line on it. Okay. You guys can watch that. You guys can start doing that. Attempt to do the color change thing. Again, when you're changing the word, click on the word, Then you go up to the top here and you click on this little star icon, little thing that says edit contents. When you do that, you'll be able to change the color of that word. Once you've changed the color of it, go back up there and close it back up. That's the key element. This part here at the end is, I mean, it's pretty fun. Once you get the hang of it, it's easy. You just change the colors and color in some spaces. The key element here is getting the words to fit properly. Okay, there it is.